Welcome to today's lesson. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to paint a cabin nestled in the forest with evergreen trees, falling snow, a starry winter sky. My husband and I have rented cabins in Idaho, and we really enjoyed that time in the cabins and being surrounded by nature's beauty. I love using watercolor to capture that experience and memory, and I want to share that with you today. So let's get started and get our watercolors out. So we always start by using our spray bottle. Spray your pans of paint. Put some water in your palette. Let's use our flat brush. Now with this, take your spray bottle and spray just a little bit water on the upper part of your painting, just a tiny bit there. Take your flat brush, wet it, and spread that water about halfway down the page here. Work it into the paper so the paper is soaking that water in. All right, now we're going to switch brushes with a mop. You want to make sure you have your paper towel ready in your other hand. I like having it in my other hand because I never know when I might need it. Go ahead and wet your mop brush. Now for the sky, we're going to use the ultramarine blue. So work your brush and get some paint on it. Put some in your palette. And start at the top of the page, top of the watercolor paper, and work your way down. That's a little light. You want to get it dark. So you might need to load your brush a couple times there to really get the color into the paper. And let it soak in. Going back and forth helps get it so it gets into the water and absorbs it. Need a little more here. That's looking pretty good. All right. Now, let's switch brushes and take your round with pointed tip brush. And with this, we want to lift some of the paint out, just a tiny bit. And you want to lift the paint out and then dry your brush. And that's going to create some little white spots. And just go all along the paper. And you want to do this while the paper is wet. It will lift up the paint. And maybe these are some bright, shiny stars that are in the night. Just randomly across the sky. Okay, now with your paper towel, we will be positioning the house, and just take the paper towel and press down, and that will create a little space, and that's where our little cabin is going to be nestled in the woods. Next, let's take our liner brush. Now, the roof, there's some of that blue. Snow is, I consider, really white to many shades of blue, even a little purple. So go ahead and load your liner with that ultramarine blue. And let's make the roof. Have it come down and then straight across and down this way. So there's the start of the formation of the roof. And then I'm going to make a triangle shape here, like that. So there's the start of our roof on our little cabin. Go ahead and clean your brush. And let's load it with burnt umber to do the wood part of the cabin. So here's the side, bring it down, and then this part is slanted, and then do the other side. That's the front of the cabin. We'll be making a door there. And this is the side of our little nice cabin. And then the side. Now, on this cabin, there's a window. And let's put the window about right here. And now, let's go ahead and fill the space here with the burnt umber. If you need to load your brush, go ahead. Let's come back on this other side and put some of this umber. Now, some of the color runs, that's okay. There's the start of our cabin. Let's go ahead and give it a quick dry. Let's take our liner brush and work on this cabin a little more. Load it with the burnt umber, and let's add a touch of burnt sienna. Give it a little more richness, some complexity, and make some darker spaces here. You can see there's that light brown, so there's one shade, and now we're creating another layer. Want to make sure you leave your window up, leave your windows, so windows about right there. Need a little more of the darkness here. like that. And it's good always to pause and look at your painting before you do another stroke, just to think what you want to do. Now let's work on the front of the cabin. Again, using the same colors, the burnt sienna and the burnt umber. Now up here on the roof, it's a little darker. It's a little more of a shadow. So I don't want to fill that totally in with that dark color. So there's more darkness or a shadow on this side. Now let's create a door so you can get into that nice cabin and have your hot cup of cocoa. And then bring it down this way. Like so. Let's let that sit and dry a little bit and work on the roof of the cabin. Now, on the roof of the cabin, there's some of that snow. And it's not completely white. There's a little blue on it. So let's take our ultramarine blue, put some of that on your palette, and add some white. We don't want it as dark. We want to create a lighter blue here. So let's add some of our white. That's looking pretty good there. That's looking pretty good there. So now that I have that mixed up, take some of that color and start on this end of the cabin and bring it across like that. Stop and rinse your brush. Now we need to add the chimney. So we'll use a burnt umber. So let's create our chimney, and it's about right here. And then bring it down. Now let's soften this line here. And you can do that by just adding water to your brush. And then go to the area that you want to lighten. Let's spread some of that color. Like that. Let's stop and give that a good dry. Okay, let's make the chimney more definite. Again, using the colors burnt umber and burnt sienna with our liner brush. Now let's use some of that color and fill in the door. The door is going to be dark. So there's our door to our nice cabin. And let's go take some of this color by the window. Now this frame is a little darker. So to make that color a little darker, almost black, add a touch of ultramarine blue. And let's make that frame of the window darker. And add some of that really rich dark, a little bit in some of those logs of the cabin. We need some of it in the spaces on here. On this side of the cabin. That's looking pretty good. Okay. Now let's work on other parts of the painting. So this area right here is where the snow's going to be. And there's some shadows. So we want to leave some of this area white and some with the color of snow, which is a light blue-gray to a dark blue to almost a purple. So let's take our round with pointed tip brush. And on our palette, mix white, a touch of the ultramarine blue, and add a touch of crimson. Not much. It's a pretty strong color, so you don't need much. So it just has a purple tinge to it. So right below this window is a dark shadow, which has a purple tinge to it. So let's add some of that and have it come out this way. I'm going to leave some of the area along here white. We'll work on that more later. And then bring some of that color over here and out towards here. Now, as it comes out this way, we want to add some more blue. And mix it in with the purple. And just kind of thin the color out to make a little bit of a wash. Now there's some light along here. And I like making it diagonal. Now in this window, I'm going to wait and let that dry and even dry that area. There's light coming out. Maybe you have a nice roaring fire in the cabin, and there's bright light shining out. Add a little more blue on here. And then right about here, you want to switch it up and make it a lot more of the blue with the white. And fill that with color. Like that. Okay, let's stop and give it a good dry. Pick up your liner brush and let's put some light in that window using lemon yellow. Now I'm just going to cover the whole window here and then add a touch of cadmium red, just a touch. And you know, if the color runs, that's okay. There's just sometimes when you look at light in the sun, you see that orange come out with that yellow. Now let's add some of that color to the snow. So the window is here and it is shining down onto the snow. So some of that is reflecting onto the snow. So add some of that color darting out from that window onto that nice white snow. And then on the other side of the cabin, there's another window like this. So there's some more of that bright, cheery yellow with a slight tinge of orange on the other side of the cabin, about right here. About like that. That's good. Now let's start working on the evergreen trees. Let's switch brushes and use our round with pointed tip brush. Load your brush with sap green. Looks like it's about time to order some more of that sap green. I really like that sap green. So there's some of those trees off here. Again, start with your point and then flare those branches out. And then when they get to the bottom, they're a little more full. And load your brush as needed. And keep going along here. And make them little different sizes. Some is high, some are higher, and then some don't grow as fast. Keep going down towards the cabin here. All the way up to the edge here. Okay, that's going to be our first layer. Now let's add some trees on the other side of the cabin. Now these are a little taller, and I like to start off by the side right here. Just coming out, flaring it, and then thicker at the bottom. There's a great big one right here. And then there's some of those trees, evergreen trees, next to it. And a little bit over the rooftop of the cabin. And right against that cabin. Again, point and flare. I'm going to make this a little bit taller than those other ones. A little bit taller than the other ones. Load your brush as needed. And then they get fuller at the bottom here. just like that. Okay. Let's give it a good dry. So with our round with pointed tip brush, mix it with sap green. Let's add a touch of ultramarine blue. And add a touch of ochre, yellow ochre. And go back and add some depth and complexity to the trees. So you can start in one area and then go along the line here, leaving some of the other layer of the color visible. Like that. Now let's come on the other side. Along here. If you run out of paint, go ahead and mix some more. I did. Add some of that to the lower branches here. That's looking pretty good. Now let's make the next layer darker. So to do that, let's mix our sap green and add a little more of the ultramarine blue to make it darker. And don't add the yellow ochre. And let's add a tinge, excuse me, of burnt umber to make it darker. And then go ahead and start adding those branches. Just randomly, just on different areas. Let's go over here and work on this area. Now we're going to be adding some snow, and so that will add another dimension to it. So as I look at this, I think I need to add, there's some blue spruces in that forest. So I'm mixing my sap green with more of the ultramarine blue. blue. It's almost half and half to make it get that little more of a blue tinge. I think even a little more than that. That's better. Let's go on this other side. And add more of that color. And if you need to mix more, go ahead. Okay. That's looking... I love those greens, different greens you see in the forest. Now, the sky is a little bit light, and we're going to fix that. Let's stick with our round with pointed tip brush and load it with ultramarine blue and start at the top and leave some white spaces. And you want to start with your brush heavy with paint and then just dip your brush in the water to dilute the paint. And I'm making the sky a little darker on the top and a little lighter towards the bottom. And then just kind of play with it, have fun with it, relax your grip. You're not going to ruin your painting. Remember, it's just a piece of paper. Have fun with it. This is your creation. Enjoy the process. Let's bring some of that color down below by the cabin. Now, as I look at it, I see the line where the cabinet's getting lost. So I want to add some of that darkness so the roof will stand out. So, and then again, just use some water to dilute it if it's too strong. And just spread that paint. One thing about watercolor is the paint is flexible and you can move it and change it. Let's bring some of that color over here. Like that. That's looking pretty good. Just like that. Now, the snow over here needs a little work. And there's some of that darker blue. So on my palette here, I have some of the ultramarine blue and white. So let's go ahead and use that. And mix a little more and put some over here. A little bit among the trees, you know, and if you see some lighter spots, maybe you want to leave that. Your composition's not going to look exactly like mine, but it'll have some similarities. But that's the fun of painting with other people, to see what their version is and how it might be similar or a little different than yours. Because we all see things differently. Yeah, that looks a little better. And then I want to add some, a little bit here, like where the trees are. There's some, the trees are casting a little more shadows. So I want to put a little more shadows along here. Using that blue. Need it a little bit darker. Just like that. Again, then stop and look at your painting to consider what you might need to do. Let's give it a good dry and then do the splatter. So now we're going to do our splatter to make snow. So to do that, we'll get our splatter shield out and set up. So there we have it set up. Take your round with pointed tip brush and work your pan of white paint here, loosen it up, get a good load of white paint on your brush, and then use your finger and tap your brush. And you will get snowflakes. So add some snow in that winter night. And you're in your nice cabin, staying warm, watching the snowflakes drop down. And then load your brush as much as needed. And you might want to start on one side of the painting and then working to the other. Just splat, splat, splat. They're coming down. Winter is a very beautiful time. And it's nice to be by a roaring fire inside a cabin, watching the snowflakes come down with your favorite beverage. Just keep going until it feels right for your composition. Need some more over here. That's looking pretty good. Maybe just a couple more. It's hard to stop. It's so much fun. Seeing that paint splatter. All right. I think that's done. I like the different dimensions of the sky with the lighter, the darker, and the snowflakes. Thank you for joining me. I really enjoyed this lesson, and I hope you did too. Please subscribe and hit the like button. Please join me next time when we'll do another creative, fun painting.